Back. I had to make sure I wasn't dreaming when he said what he said. So, but I'm
here, of course, joined with Nick Botkins of the Botkins Show. Nick, what's going on there, here, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into another Monday night of Buffoon and Botkins. My name is Tanner Dawson of the Sports Buffoons and Whiskey Sports Podcast, and of course, joined by me is Nick Botkins of the Botkins Show. Nick, what's up, dude?
What's up? Just trying to recover from last night's devastating loss.
The heartbreak.
You were on the Sunday night post show in the comments. If you missed that, please check that out, folks. Johnny Cruz and Rob Logan holding it down. Let me come on and bear my soul after the Packers loss last night. I should have known better. I tell myself I just should have just known better.
Look, there was just hope, and sometimes hope is a good thing to have. It's kind of nice, to know you're not team's dead by week 10. And it was a kind of a comeback for them, but at the same time, they faced a Detroit team that has come alive this season, putting stuff together. Looking good. I'm excited to see what their future holds, even though they did not make the playoffs. So, but guys, if you didn't catch it, let's talk sports. We did a whole game day show yesterday. It was a lot of shows yesterday. Nick, you were on the show in the afternoon with Ryan Larison, and you hopped on Sunday night talk with Rob and Johnny.
Yeah.
So
it was a full slate, fun time. I was trying to bring a lot of good mojo to the Packers, but they did not bring it back.
Did not work.
It didn't.
That's all right. So, but guys, we got the show, quite a show today. Of course, we got Jim Biringer. We'll hop on with him for about 25-30 minutes here. We'll talk a little bit of everything like we always do with him. And then, of course, Jonathan Grishman will join us on the back end. We'll probably talk a little NFL with him. We'll probably talk a little MLB news, see what else is going on there. So, but yeah, quite the show, guys. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow. No matter what channel you want to see in the corners. Yep, that's all the shows right there. Let's talk sports, Sports Buffoons, the Botkins Show, and Whiskey Sports Podcast. So go check them out. Go subscribe. Hit that bell because we got a lot of shows coming up here. But we'll talk about that at the end. So let's bring him in, the one and only Jim Biringer. What's up, Jim?
Yo, what's up, boys? How we doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's Monday night. We're back.
We're back at it. It's
Jim. The Giants are in the playoffs.
Game.
I mean, you at one time, I think we both kind of wrote them off, and now they're in.
Yes.
I mean, we talked about it. What was it? A few weeks ago, before the holidays, we said, beat Indy pretty much and get in. I think if they didn't win that game, they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. They took care of business, and then they rested everybody. I'm not a fan of that. I think they should have treated it like a preseason game, to be honest, for these guys to get some reps. I understand you don't want guys hurt. However, game situations and game speed is totally different than practice with no pads and just shorts and running through the motions, considering this Giants team was blown out by Minnesota a few weeks ago.
And I mean, this is literally after of course not the last week, but the week before, Dauble's like, hey, we're going to play everybody right after press conference, right afterwards. We're not stopping the motion. We're going to keep it going. And then, later in the week here, right before the game starts, essentially, he's like, we ain't playing anybody.
It's a double-edged sword because what you don't want to happen is see what happened to Mike Williams get banged up.
Let's say the Chargers
for the Chargers, right? So it's like it is. As long as I just didn't want to see, I want to see guys play who had incentives play, whoever that may be. I know Galloway had to get 76 catches, and he could have got that and got his huge bonus. So. But that didn't happen either.
No.
So I just wanted to see guys get their bonuses. Whether as long as they get their bonuses, be that coach. Hey, if you need this, then we're going to pull you. I think a half would have been okay, but like you said,
I would have said a couple of series. I would have been okay with it. Keep guys in rhythm, just because I've seen it. Go back to 2007 with this Giants team, right? When they tried to knock off the Patriots in the final week of the regular season. Everybody played it. It carried momentum into the playoffs. I know, it's different, but to stop and start, maybe Barkley, okay, you give him a week off. He's had a big workload. Okay, Danny Dimes, a couple series here and there. But, again, Minnesota, I understand a lot of people like this Giants team going up against Minnesota. But the problem is for me is how rusty are these guys going to be in the first series? I mean, you got a couple weeks off. They look so good against Indianapolis. You didn't play, practice. I mean, again, prove me wrong. I hope they do because this Giants team's been proving everybody wrong this year. But, it has to start right away because Dable's going to be questioned again and again and again if the Giants don't perform in this game.
Yeah, and there was plenty to work on in that final season game too, right? Even if it was just a quarter or first half, there's still opportunity of Daniel Jones working to pass the ball to those receivers, still trying to develop that Isaiah Hodgins, who's blown up.
Ricky James too.
Yeah, Rick James,
exactly.
Rick James.
I mean, Jones especially. I mean, we know he's not the greatest passer, and he's been doing a lot with his legs this year. But just to me, to read go through your options, see what your options are, read the defenses, because Minnesota's going to throw him a bunch of looks, and there's only so much film you can watch, and you can just have to be in gameplay to understand what kind of reads you need to go through, and maybe hey, okay, this receiver's here, maybe don't have to run right away.
I mean, if you're hanging your head on the Indy game, that they look good on the Indy game. Every team looked good against Indy except for Tanner's Chiefs. So, that's not saying a whole lot if you ask me.
I mean, look, Indy's not a great team, but I think they needed to make a statement with that game. I think if it was a close game, you're going to start questioning, okay, what's going on here? Does this team deserve to be in a playoff? But a nice blowout win definitely helps to clinch a playoff spot.
And help with the momentum, the confidence part going into that part of the season, the last part.
Do you think if it wasn't Dallas that they could have helped out, right? Like if they go in and try to beat the Eagles and it's not Dallas that gets the benefit, so let's just say it's like Minnesota or the 49ers that could have benefited from that. Do you think then they go out because then it's like, hey, we spoiled our rival, or it's just like, hey, we don't want to help, we don't want to help out the other rival either at the same time?
Well, wasn't it? I think if Eagles had lost that game since San Fran won, I think San Fran would have been number one, right? Is that right?
I thought the Cowboys. I guess the Cowboys needed the Niners to lose too.
Yeah,
it was later in the day. Well.
So Niners would have hopped into that one spot,
right?
And then Philly to the 2.
Yeah. So I mean, there was still some incentive to play for. I mean,
the Cowboys could. I thought the Cowboys could have got won the division though if the Eagles.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think it would be Dallas at the 2 spot.
Yeah,
if Philly would have dropped to that 5.
So maybe they didn't want to help the Cowboys. I mean, what was that's what I was asking. It's just like if it wasn't the Cowboys, they could have helped out by beating the Eagles. Maybe they, but they're like,
look out for yourself, man. It's not about others. It's about looking out for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's what Dabo's all about, man.
Yeah, he's been looking out for this team all year. He wants to rest guys. Look, we'll see what happens when they play Minnesota on Sunday. It's 2 weeks off now. Guys haven't played. We're just going through practices and watching film. It's going to be interesting to see what their first series looks like offensively because of the rust, I think. That's just my key to this whole thing because, there's so much practice. There's so much things you can do. I've seen it in hockey too many times. Team is rested after a sweep. Other team comes in, is playing hard. They don't look great in the first period, and then they just get behind the 8 ball. And I've just seen it way too many times. And I think momentum, there's such thing as momentum in sports.
Yeah, I fully agree with that here. And I think that's maybe what Brandon Staley was thinking there on the Chargers, was just trying to keep things going, to keep the momentum going. Obviously hurt them with the Mike Williams situation, but for the most part, Keenan Allen, right, doubled his touchdown production on that game yesterday. That connection was something really needed to establish for the Chargers over there. So there's good things and there's bad things. It's just how the game works and how your decisions run.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. I mean, again, what it's a double-edged sword. You're darned if you do, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And you know what? It's we're gonna see what happens when they play Minnesota because the last time was not so good for the Giants team.
Yeah, all the playoff matches up in the first round, they've already been played in the regular season. Some of them obviously twice. So I don't know if that's ever happened in the NFL, but it's weird that it happened this year. That every matchup was played in the regular season, and obviously a couple of them twice, and we're getting the third helping.
Yeah, I mean that is crazy. I mean, I think what is it now? The Bengals played the Ravens. Now this is the third matchup of the season, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
and the Bills Dolphins third matchup of the season.
Yeah, Giants Vikings are playing a bunch. This is their second time. Is it Cowboys and Tampa too? Right? I think.
Their second time.
Somebody started the season. They're going to end their season with the same opponent.
That's crazy. I mean, I think that's it's got to be like the first time this has happened, like ever.
Right? I didn't even realize it until I heard it today. I was like, oh, shoot, that's right. And I was like, has that ever even happened?
I don't think so. I really don't. But hey, you know what? Hey, this is going to be fun. It's wild card weekend. Anything can happen. These matchups are actually really fun if you start digging into them. Look, I think everybody, we make jokes when Jacksonville clinches a playoff spot. Tony Khan and this guy's all elite and that guy's all elite, and and the jokes that are going around in the memes. But good for Jacksonville, get back in the playoffs. Urban Meyer did the worst coaching job ever because the talent was there. Look what Doug Peterson did with this team, and good for Jacksonville. It just stinks that they don't have a great record, and the Chargers have to go out again. I've always done it because I've called them that forever. But the LA Chargers got to go out to Jacksonville to play, and they have the better record. So I mean, look, it's always gonna be a matchup like that. But
well, yeah, I mean Dallas, Tampa, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's whole thing. We've seen it before with Seattle.
Seattle was at 7-9, and
yep.
they won the playoff game against New Orleans.
Yep. Next to that home field part right there. So
Speaking of the Jacksonville, the funniest meme I saw about that was if the Jags win the title, the WWE going to give them a heavyweight belt.
That was funny. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
That would have been great. Oh my Lord. Well, let's keep pushing here. We'll hop into this championship game real quick here. Not much to talk about, obviously. As TCU is, the
spread could have been 21 or 20, and the Bulldogs still cover. That's how sad it is.
The original spread I saw for this game was 21.5, and it came down to 13. So they're even covering the original spread that I saw TCU on. So
I told my dad, I go 13.5. It's too risky to take because if Georgia's going to win this game, Georgia's going to blow them out. That's how I put it. I go, I wouldn't touch it because if Georgia does win this game, it's not going to be a 7-point game. This is going to be like a 20 to 30-point game.
Oh, yeah, easily. I mean, right now, look, the things that could go wrong went wrong for TCU. 3 turnovers. You start with a penalty, keep getting backed up. They're not ready to play this game whatsoever. Georgia's just throwing different looks at them defensively. And they just can't stop anybody. I mean, Stetson Bennett, they 5 touchdowns, a field goal. You thought they were going to get back into this game after they have the defensive stand off the fumble. They hold them at 3 points. They exploit the defense of Georgia on the miscommunication, and it's 10-7. And from there, it's been all Georgia. I mean, look, Bowers wasn't involved against Ohio State, and he's been involved early and often in this game. You expected that. He's best tight end in the country. Georgia's defense is just giving him different looks. Max Duggan's getting pressure he's never seen before. TCU's never seen a team like this all season. Michigan just laid a bet in the semifinal game, or else if Michigan played like they could, TCU's not even in this position. But they did it, and give credit to TCU for winning line of scrimmage. But Georgia's on a different level than anybody right now.
There's your stat, Nick. There's your stat of the day right there.
Yeah.
I saw that. What I was going to say To me, Jim, like what I tweeted out earlier, I said TCU's a really good college team. The problem is they're running up against a semi-pro team. I mean, that's the bottom of it. You know, like Georgia, like TCU's Georgia didn't look past TCU. I don't even know if they really looked past Ohio State. Every one of the last 4 national title games has been an absolute blowout. Why do you think that is, that we're getting these blowouts in these title games? And there's usually one semi-close game in the first round, and we got 2 really good games, I felt like, in the first round. But these title games, the last 4 or 5 years, just been absolute blowouts.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, Georgia, Kirby Smart said it after they survived Ohio State. We need to be better. Okay? He knows what his team needed to do. They didn't get pressure on CJ Stroud. Their secondary was exploited. You know, all these things weren't okay. Look, we fixed all that. Todd Monken's the play calling has been great. Their defense has been good. Different looks. Jalen Carter's getting pressure. Then you got Pollard on the outside picking and making smart plays after he gets a penalty. They're just stepping up. It's just a different look for TCU that they've never seen before. I mean, it's just complete steamroll because they are the national champions and they want to repeat, and they want to be the next Alabama. Kirby Smart's building the next Alabama program, and you know, you lose all these starters on defense and their defense is just as good. Their offense is running. Stetson Bennett, championship heart. That's what got him through Ohio State. They made smart play calls. And this team is just on a different level right now. I mean, you think about what they did in that first half. I mean, you know, 17 points on 3 turnovers. The pressure, TCU's just never seen it. And you can see that their defense they're running this high-powered offense, and they just can't be there. And it's the will to repeat and want to be better and just coming out strong. It was utter domination, but I love it. Kirby Smart at the end of the first half gets the interview. Somebody asked him, what do you like about his team? He's like, well, we just got to be ready to play the third quarter because our third quarters haven't been great. That's pure full Nick Saban if you ever heard it.
It is. Yeah. It is. I think the big thing, too, for Georgia is they were the better team than Ohio State. We all know this going into the season, right? Yeah. And you had the 3-week lull or whatever it was, you know, that long lull, and it just kills teams. We see it every year. And I think that's the thing you saw between that matchup and this matchup is there wasn't a 3-week lull. Georgia was able, you know, they continue their momentum from the Ohio State game. Luckily, that was such a close game for them to be able to keep that play up, you know, escalate their play. Now they come into the TCU game, the championship game, being a week later, and take care of business.
Well, that's the one team that could match Georgia talent for talent at position for position was Ohio State.
Correct.
And you saw it early on. CJ Stroud hitting Marvin Harrison Jr. They were connecting their wide receivers, the running game. They're exploiting the defense. And, you know, this comes down to, you know, when Marvin Harrison goes out, the game changes. They make smart reads, call timeout. You know, their defensive, you know, tightens up a little bit. You know, Ohio State still had a chance to win the game, but Stetson Bennett makes the big throw, the will. And now, like you said, there's no 3 weeks off. You're ready for your next opponent. Georgia was probably in the film room that night, ready to go. Kirby Smart was. He was looking at us like, all right, you know, TCU is going to exploit us through the air. Okay, this is who we need to stop. And that's what they're doing. And now it's 45-7.
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers with the touchdown. I mean, this game's pretty much over right now.
It's already over. It's not pretty much over. It's in the words of Vince Carter, it's over.
It's over. Just give him the trophy right now.
Yeah.
You expected Bowers to get a touchdown, and he's just been playing great all year. I think this is now, 6 straight possessions, 6 straight touchdowns for Georgia. I mean, it's done. It is over.
Tanner, you mentioned that lull, right? The 3-week lull, and I think that's what kind of happens. And it gives other teams longer time to prepare, right? Like TCU had almost a month to prepare for Michigan, Ohio State a month to prepare for Georgia, and then it's only really like about a week time frame to prepare for Georgia, TCU to Georgia. Do you think some of that lull and that prepare now, like it's gonna be shortened, right? Because we're gonna have so many more teams that are gonna be playing more weekly. So is that lull going to stop? And are we going to see less upsets, you guys think, or more upsets once we get into bigger standard team, the bigger the
I
bracket?
fully believe less upsets will be coming. Those dominant teams that finish the season strong, like we saw with Georgia, right, who kept going, it's closer to the 3 weeks hurts them because it's sitting around practicing the whole, essentially the boring part, right, of
Yeah,
football.
it's just practice, it's just tape,
Yeah.
it's just you're in the film room, you're really not playing game speed after coming off a championship game. And that I think there's going to be lots of upsets too because you're still in rhythm of
True.
the season. And when
Sure.
this thing gets started, I know the national championship will get pushed back a little bit by like a week, but still, when they get this thing going, I mean, the teams that'll be off are the teams that have the buys. That's who will be affected early on.
Could be a Georgia, right?
Yeah, it could be a Georgia, it could be Alabama, whoever is one of those top 4 seeds could be affected because the team
they'll get home games though, right? Like I heard Tim Tebow. I didn't know that. Tim Tebow said something about them getting home games.
Yeah, first round gets home games.
Okay.
But the quarterfinals are played at the bowl games. And nobody's told me this, but I'm gonna say I'm probably 75% sure eventually those quarterfinal games will be played on home campuses. Going somewhere down the line because those teams are going to be like, hey, wait a minute, those guys are getting revenue. Hey, what about us? We have a buy. We want that revenue too.
Exactly. We want that.
I think that's going to happen eventually.
Well, they're getting revenue for the bowl game. I mean, you know what I mean? They're getting those type. They're getting some of that.
Yeah, but you're not getting the home field revenue.
Yeah,
the merch with the the food, the parking, all that other stuff that goes with it. I think that you get that if you have that atmosphere in those quarterfinal games, it's going to be electric. And again, it's down the road. We're getting one more year of this format, and then we're on to the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and the only reason I say the lull's the big factor here is because Ohio State, struggled against Penn State, who was the only other ranked team they played against besides Michigan during the season. So, like, if it was to happen a week or two, not even maybe 2, like a week or 2, I guess, after the season ended, I really think Georgia does what they're doing at TCU right now at Ohio State. I really do.
I really do. So I really agree with that. I think Georgia's momentum, what they did against LSU, Kirby would have had things cleaned up right away. He didn't like the fact his defense gave up so many yards, so many points in a loss, even though they were dominant, winning the SEC. They play Ohio State the next week. The way Ohio State played against Michigan in that second half, that game is over in the first half, and it's not even close.
What they have in the first half, I think they had 20-plus points in the first half, and I was like, I didn't even think Ohio State was going to score 20 points the whole damn game, and here they were, right? I mean, right there with the whole, all the way to the end, and really should have won that game if the kicker makes, does his job.
That's a tough kick too. That's a tough kick. Still distance. I know it's in the dome, but Georgia had all the momentum, and it didn't even go off his foot great. I mean, maybe if it gets off his foot better, there's a chance. But
made the first one, right? I mean, that's what the joke is. He made the one in 2022, but missed the kick in 2023.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Because it struck midnight during the timeout. So
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. That's pretty funny.
At least on the East Coast, I think Central Time Zone, it was still 11 here, but
it wasn't quite midnight before that.
But on the East Coast time zone,
East Coast, yep.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, there's a lot of I think fun stuff to come this offseason too for college. So possibly some shakeouts, some better improvement from teams. So I don't know, lots to come there. So let's switch it up before we get you out of here. NHL news, rumors, whole bunch of stuff going into play. I've been viewing Full Press Hockey the last few days here. And has there been any huge injuries or trade rumors out there that we got to know about, Jim?
I mean, the big thing is like what's going on in Vancouver. I mean, it's a complete mess right now. It's just been started from the beginning where they just couldn't hold those leads. And you hear names like Brock Besser and Bo Horvat. Horvat doesn't have a contract, and they're looking to maybe move guys out. Obviously, the situation there is just not good. That the Miller contract over the summer was weird. because you heard that he was going to be traded the whole time and then he just re-signs. And obviously that could happen with Horvat, but it just feels like he's going to be gone in Vancouver. Something's going to happen there. Obviously, everybody's keeping an eye on Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews in Chicago. Kane's got a little bit of an injury right now, and there's rumors are that he might need like a cleanup. So they're going to see what happens. Obviously teams are wondering what those guys are going to do. Colorado's looking for a second line center, so they've been linked to Toews and Horvat because they just haven't been able to replace Nazem Kadri. And obviously the Jacob Chikrin sweepstakes is going on with Arizona Coyotes, who's going to get him, but the asking price, Arizona's not moving. It's 2 first-round picks plus a draft pick, plus a prospect, plus some other things as well. So, I mean,
Man.
they want a lot for this guy, and ever since he's returned to the lineup, he's been producing, and his trade stock has gone up each and every week. So, I mean, he's performing for the Coyotes, and there's no rush to move him. They're going to want what they want. And it's a similar situation what we saw in Colorado with Matt Duchene all those years ago, where everybody's like, oh, Duchene's got to get traded. He's got to move. They got to move him. Joe Sakic is like, no. I have my price. I'm going to wait for my price, and then I'm going to trade him. And that's what he did. So, I mean, look, there's a lot of things, going on right now. Obviously, you look at Boston and how they're performing right now. I mean, David Pastrnak, first start of week, 7 goals, a hat trick against Anaheim. What he did, and this guy's still without a contract, and he's just, backing up the truck for this next contract and how much money he's going to make. It's going to be interesting to see for me what Boston is, because, everybody knows the Patriot way, the Boston way. Mm-hmm. Hey, take less money, build a team, guys. He's going to move the needle for the Bruins, and they're going to probably have to pay double digits to keep him around, because that's how productive and valuable he is to that team.
There was an injury I had too. I was just kind of scrolling through on Facebook or something, and I don't know when this happened, Jim, but Blake Wheeler, I don't know who he plays for, but this is one of the reasons I'll never play hockey, or I think fighting is incredible because people are just built differently. Blake Wheeler ruptured his testicle after he was struck by Josh Morrissey's shot on December 15th, and he finished the game. If I've ruptured my testicle, I am done for the next 6 years, Jim. I'm not leaving the couch. My wife would ask me, baby, take out the trash. No, woman, I ruptured my testicle. I am not. And she would say, you did that 6 years ago. Yeah, it still hurts. I ruptured testicle. And this guy's out here just rupturing testicle and saying, I'm going to go finish a damn game of hockey. Are you kidding me?
I mean, look, this, what Blake Wheeler's doing. I mean, I saw that. I was like, wait, what? I had to reread this thing about what happened. The fact that he completed the game, with a ruptured testicle is remarkable. I mean, look, hockey players wear cups, but sometimes it misses the marker, it goes through, and it hurts. Big time it hurts. And the fact that he finished the game, remarkable. I got one for you. Jake DeBrusk, Winter Classic, broken fibula, scores 2 goals, including the winner, and he'll be out for 4 weeks. But he played through a broken fibula. So that's what we're talking about with hockey players right now. You got
such a difference
in a month because he's got a hangnail.
Yeah, I mean, you got other sports guys got hangnails, rest, all this stuff. Time, guys just and hockey players play through anything to get the job done. And you look at one team that's been hit by injuries. Colorado. With Nichushkin, Valery Nichushkin dealing with an ankle that goes back to the Stanley Cup final. Gabriel Landeskog, guys are starting to come back for that team. But will it be too little, too late for the defending champs? And they're still sticking around in that Western Conference, but they still need these guys to come back and produce in the lineup. And I think that's why they're going to be a team to watch at the trade deadline when things get going, because they desperately need offense and they desperately need a second line center.
Is it something to do the fact that they are on skates and ice where they can kind of glide more? Or is it more just a mentality thing on how some of these hockey guys can play through some of these crazy, crazy injuries?
I was going to ask the same question, Tanner.
It's a mental thing, man. I think it's just the fact that there's a sacrifice. You sacrifice your body. You do whatever it takes to win any game. doesn't matter. Regular season, playoffs. I mean, Bergeron in 2013 or 19, whatever year it was, punctured lung, broken ribs, just played through it all. It doesn't matter.
Is that toughness just something you're born with, or is it like I don't know. Like that's what I need to know. Is like, is God just like, you know what, we're gonna make this guy extra tough, and he's either gonna be a fighter or he's gonna be a hockey player, because we're gonna make this guy one of the toughest SOBs in the world, and that's it. And then like, because there's no way I don't like, even if I was good at hockey, I ruptured my testicle. I'm like, coach, take me out the game. Like I don't have. Like, how do they come up with this mentality, or what?
I think it's just a team thing. I think it's a team thing. It's built in the locker room. Guys fight through injuries. They do whatever it takes to stay in. I mean, I get
playing injured for the team, but I think if I went to my teammates and said, "You guys, I ruptured my freaking testicle," they would be like,
sometimes you just don't know until after the game. Like these injuries come up. These injuries come up after the game. I mean,
it's a lot of adrenaline within these guys.
It's really just adrenaline. You just go through it, and then we see what happens after. I mean, you speak of injuries. You look at Tarasenko and O'Reilly for Vladimir Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly for St. Louis. St. Louis is looking into life, what it might be like without these two guys in the lineup. Kyrou, Thomas, they're playing well right now. So, you're looking at that. But again, it's a different mentality. It's just a different sport in general. You got to be a little bit crazy, a little bit weird to play the sport of hockey.
Amen to that.
I fully agree with that. Like the stuff I hear, it just blows my mind. I've only gone
sliced with the skate, and they continue to freaking play, just out there bleeding. Just
that part. No, I think guys, I've seen, the injuries I've seen with the skate blade. Guys got to go straight off. They don't come back for a while. But Evander Kane, who got cut by the skate blade, a few months back in Tampa, looks like he's going to be back for Edmonton at the end of January. So that's going to help the Oilers with their offense. But I mean, again, it's just, the cut resistant stuff out there now, and that's why you wonder, like, eventually will players wear neck guards like, the youth hockey players do to just protect themselves. I doubt it's going to get that far, but I wouldn't be surprised if the PA and guys are starting to wear cut resistant stuff more often now, just because of the sharpness of the blades.
Yeah, you would think they would do something there for the players, because, gosh, man, he's been out for 2 months.
Yeah, a few months. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing that happen. So, oh man, I've only been ice skating once in my life, and that was last year. Okay, my legs hurt so bad. Granted, I was on the wall, right, going around, but I hurt so bad. Like, I don't know how these guys are playing. Like, that must be some hell of adrenaline to keep going.
Yeah, you just, from experience, just playing, you just go through it, you power through, you figure it out, because, you just get through the game, and then you worry about the next one when the next one comes, because you just want to finish, because you don't want to miss the shift. You just want to be there. I mean, unless it's serious enough where you have to come out of the game and you don't want to come back because of precaution. But, I got to be with Wheeler. I'm going to be honest. It's probably an afterthought, because he probably wasn't diagnosed with it till after the game, and nobody really knew that he ruptured his testicle.
I feel like that's something you know right away. I mean,
that's probably it, but the like Tanner said, the adrenaline just kicks you through, and then you're like, oh hey, yeah, I played through a ruptured testicle.
The game's over.
Wait, what?
Hey, don't kick that. Hey, don't kick. Hey, don't hit that. That's not the puck. That's my nut on the ice. Will you somebody clear it for me?
Yeah.
Nick could call it out for everybody. Don't worry.
I'll be diving on the ice to get it, baby. Hey, before you get out of here, Jim, give us a score prediction for the Giants and Vikings on whatever day they're playing. Sunday, I guess. Is that a Saturday or Sunday game? Yeah, I have no idea.
I think it's a Sunday game. Yeah, it's Sunday at 4:15. They're gonna ruin my Sunday and my holiday weekend. Let's see. All right, what was the final of the last game these two teams played? A lot to a little.
I got you. I'm on it.
No. All right, so it was close. It was 27-24.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
And remember, that was a Greg Joseph walk-off,
yeah.
right? The first time the Vikings ever had a true walk-off kick.
Yeah, that was, the Giants got blown out early. They made a game of it. They were able to come back.
Yep.
Barkley got the touchdowns. Like I said, my heart says the Giants are going to win this game. My head says Minnesota, but you know what? The way the Giants have played all year, they keep things close. I think the Giants are going to pull the upset off and be 21-17.
There it is.
21-17.
There it is. Stick away from the game-winning field goal situation.
Yeah, no game-winning field goals.
Right.
Don't give them field position for any
That's
of that
how both those teams win, though. It's real close games,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Vikings like to stick around and, win those one-score games like they have all season. Completely opposite from last year's Vikings team. So, I like the Vikings choking on the game-winning field goal. Give me 21-19.
All right.
Oh, I got to make a pick. Jeez. I
know you're checked out. It's all right. These not playoff guys.
I was. I'm just concentrated on my guy Joe Burrow. That's the only thing. I don't even want anybody in the NFC to win.
Well, let's play Infinity Round.
I am gonna go. The hammer says 2017 G-Man.
I like it. I like it. Wait. Hey, I know I don't want to rub salt into more Packers fans' wounds, but I saw this stat today. No, I don't know if you saw this stat today. So this is actually pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Are you talking about this exact stat about the Brett Favre?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What's the stat?
So I said this last night. I said the Aaron Rodgers last pass was an interception just like Brett Favre's. But then I didn't realize how crazy it was. And I actually shared it on my Facebook here. In Brett Favre's final 6 passes as a Packer, he went 2 for 6 for 12 yards, concluding in a game-sealing, season-ending interception to Jim's Giants in the NFC Championship game. I remember. In the freezing cold, then they went on to beat the Patriots.
Yep.
In Aaron Rodgers' final passes this year, which could be his last game as a Green Bay Packer, he went 2 for 6 for 12 yards, including a game-sealing, season-ending interception at Lambeau Field.
Yep.
What?
You can't make this up.
What?
You cannot make this up.
So Rodgers,
I mean, it is. I mean, it's very coincidental.
Rodgers to the Jets.
then the Vikings is what you're saying.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I do think he's retired. I think he's going to retire. Just so much body language and moments. I said that last night. I still stand by it. A little more sober today that he is. I think he's done. I think he's retiring.
I'll be interested in tomorrow's episode with Pat. See if he hops on, and we'll have to all tune in on that one. See how it feels. See how it's going.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, Jim, we'll get you out of here. Appreciate you hopping on the whole shebang. We'll catch you later, man.
Absolutely.
See you, Jim.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Always fun on a Monday night to be back and better than ever. And by the way, Vince Carter says it's over 51-7.
Over.
It's over.
I love it, dude.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Catch you, man. Jim Biringer, guys. Always great to talk with.
Tanner.
And another one.
Tanner, let me ask you, are you surprised we haven't seen as many coaches fired on what's usually typically what we consider Black Monday? I mean, there was only really Lovie Smith. That happened late last night. Cliff Kingsbury. The Browns fired their DC. Now, I guess a lot were fired during the regular season, but
I was going to say a lot during the regular.
I mean, there's still quite a few openings.
I think you're still going to see more to come, right? Carolina still working on their decision with Steve Wilkes.
Well, so that's what I mean. We already knew that was going to be an opening.
Yeah, so that's coming up. Denver was already open, right?
Yeah.
So I still think, look, there's a chance the Chargers, if they lose to Jaguars, let's go with Staley there and some of those guys. So there's openings, there could possibly openings there in the LA world. Rams, Sean McVay, we don't even know what's going on with him. I mean, we could be knowing that more before March, whether he decides to stay or not. I don't think he gets fired.
That's a decision. I think a coaching decision has got to happen before the Super Bowl.
I fully believe that too, because you're going to lose a lot of prospects, and that's going to hurt the organization, right?
Yeah.
With that. So I agree with you there. I think they got to know, especially if you got the Sean Payton sweepstakes going on. Arizona freed up their side. Obviously, Sean Payton's going to go look at their
GM's gone.
Yeah.
They
kind of cleaned house.
Gone. Yeah, they did.
So, which was kind of surprising after an extension. But
it was an extension. We talked about this. I think even it was an extension that should have never happened. They should have never extended the GM, the head coach. I mean, I did read today. The owner said that, which I don't agree with, that Kyler will have input on who the head coach will be, and I never like that. I never like when a quarterback can pick his coach. I don't like when you hire a coach before a GM. Because I feel like you got to hire a GM first, then he picks his coach. Because if you hire a coach, then you get the GM, and then they may not. You don't even know if they get along or if that's the guy he wants.
I think it kind of depends on who it is, right? So who's your head coach, right? Chiefs did that. Chiefs hired Andy Reid, and then they went for the GM position.
Yeah,
right. So it depends. Obviously, there's outside of Sean Payton, there's no true Andy Reid style guy. So, I mean, the only guy I would trust with that kind of pick would be a Sean Payton. I don't like Kyler Murray having maybe that's what it takes for it to work there. Maybe he
what's he gonna say? What's he gonna ask in the interview? Are you gonna make me study this playbook? Do I have to put Call of Duty down to study the playbook? If the answer is no, you're my guy.
As much as we love making fun of Kyler Murray for that, because that is freaking hilarious. This is like almost as bad as Russell for the Raiders. But, I still feel like Kyler Murray getting that deal, getting that extension will help him. And he was on the headset too during the preseason, which I thought was a huge key. Like, hey, maybe this guy's buying in, stepping in now, wanting to learn more, wanting to, mature essentially, right, for this game.
He's got to know. Whoever the coach is there has got to know, right? Kyler's probably not playing maybe the first half of the season.
Yeah. They're everybody that goes there is going to be fully aware of his situation, right? Exactly where he's at. You won't see him till week 10, right? At best, I believe.
Yeah.
Unless he's Mighty Mouse, so he might recover quicker. But I doubt you see him before week 10. And who knows, it's like a Deshaun Watson situation, right? You don't have your star guy until halfway through the season. Can you survive 10 weeks, 11 weeks with a Colt McCoy or whatever else I guess you can go out and get, So I guess there'd be a lot of decisions. I'd be surprised if they go after somebody not offensive minded just to be able to run that offense. What the heck? Why not Leftwich down in Tampa? He could be a guy that could connect with Murray.
A lot of people I've been reading today are very high on the Eagles OC, and whoever would have thought that people are going to approach the Lions for coaches, and the Lions offensive coordinator is very high on a lot of
49ers defensive coordinator is another one there. And I mean, there's a few guys. One guy I'm not hearing a thing about is Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah. I didn't today. They have to ask permission for all these guys. Correct. And his name. And I don't know if you have to do it. You have to wait till their season ends, or if you do it during.
They can do it during playoffs.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Like they can, as long as they get permission, they can interview. Like Bieniemy.
And I never saw anybody ask for Eric Bieniemy's.
Me either.
Where is he? Is he not? Is he going to miss out again? For the fourth year in a row here?
I don't think he not only does he miss out on a head coach opportunity, he misses out being on the Chiefs for next year. I really think he's probably on his way out the door for a Chiefs coordinator. So he might be a coordinator with some other head coach going forward, honestly.
A guy to watch out in Denver is Dan Quinn. I read that they love Russ loved him. They were in Seattle together. Dan Quinn ran the Legion of Doom. He said he loves Dan Quinn, is a great guy. So I could see Dan Quinn, and maybe Dan Quinn tries to bring Bieniemy. We talked about Staley getting fired after the playoffs. Fat Mike could be getting fired as well. If they look like they did last night against the Commanders, and they go to Tampa Bay and look that way, I could see Fat Mike leaving town. And Jerry loves Sean Payton, and they're going to have to give up a first round to get him. But
they got
Sean
the picks.
Payton,
they got it.
You could get Sean Payton, and he wants to bring in what's his name from the old Broncos head coach.
Fangio.
Yeah, Vic Fangio. Fangio.
I think you're right on that Dallas scene. I don't think you're going to see Sean Payton. Sean Payton might entertain an interview or two during the postseason until Dallas gets eliminated. If Dallas gets eliminated that first round to Tampa Bay, if Tampa Bay starts Dallas' season off with the loss and ends Dallas' season in the same season, you are probably right on Big Mike being out the door. And Jerry, I don't think Jerry holds on to it. I think he's gone the next day. And that way he can get Sean Payton in there. I mean, this whole Sean Payton rumor at the beginning of the season going to Dallas possibly could actually work out in the end if the cards fall right. Now, if Dallas, you'll say Dallas makes it somehow to the championship game or to the NFC championship game, I don't see the cards falling anymore.
Another guy out there, a lot of people, Denver has reached out to him, and I think the Colts probably will too, is Jim Harbaugh. He has ties to Indy, played Indy. Well, the thing of it is what Ian Rappaport was reporting today is that he's going to try to probably leverage one of these NFL jobs for more money at Michigan. And if Michigan doesn't cough up money, because remember 2 years ago, he took a pay cut to stay there because they were going to fire his ass because he was like 0-13 against Ohio State at that point in time.
Yeah.
And now he's got 2 wins against Ohio State, but has looked like dog shit in the playoffs. But here they are. So he could leverage that into either more money at Michigan or more money into the NFL. And they were kind of talking this morning too, and I never really thought about it, is that some of these higher level coaches, right, they don't want to go to the NFL because they don't want to deal with agents and money and this like that, right? But now that with the NIL deal and the transfer portal, college football has become exactly like the NFL. You got to deal with money. You got to deal with people leaving all the time and that. So why not leave college and then go to the pros where you're not dealing with 18-year-olds and their emotions?
Yeah, but I think he finds success within that. As weird as it sounds, he finds maybe some pleasure in it with it. Do you think his post out there, right? He posted last week on it. And it's like, look, I'm not leaving Michigan, da-da-da. Do you really think the money thing comes into play? And he's like, 3 weeks from now, can't get more money from Michigan. See you later.
I don't believe anytime them coach it out shit like that. I don't believe a single word they say. Money talks. You know what I mean?
It does. How
many times have we seen coaches say, this is where I'm going to be, and then 2 weeks later, they're out. Just one coach. What was his name? Bobby Petrino took a job, OC job, left Missouri State, took an OC job, UNLV, was there exactly 1 month, said, see you later. I'm going to be the OC at Texas A&M now.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot he did.
That happens all the time. It doesn't mean that's what coaches expect these. That's why I hate coaches like, these kids want to transfer. But if you had a better opportunity someplace else and they asked you to go,
take it,
you would go too. Why are we holding 18-year-old kids to a higher standard than I do a 50-year-old? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point.
He lied to everybody in America. I'm not. Remember when he was the Dolphins coach? I'm not taking the Alabama coach. I'm dedicated to Miami. 2 days later, Alabama introduces Nick Saban as the head coach. I thought he just said on national television on Monday Night Football that he wasn't going to take that job.
I'm pretty sure that was after a loss too, right?
Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute. Maybe I do
think
consider
do
that
want
one.
this Alabama job. Yeah.
I gotta keep
that's
this paycheck rolling.
yes, like it happens all the time. I don't believe so. Jim Harbaugh's statement doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If a team really offered him a lot of money to come coach there and gave him a lot of control, he's gone.
Would you? The only team when you say Jim Harbaugh, the first team and the only team that I can really think of where he would go is Denver. With Russell Wilson. That's the only team that like pops in my mind.
I think the Colts to me, the Colts, because Jim Irsay is crazy. I think the Colts, the Colts, to me make a lot of sense. I mean, they're going to have to build that whole thing back up, but they just make sense to me because he's the Colt. Was played for the Colts.
I don't feel like he wants to have that kind of fresh start. Like at least Denver, sure, Russ had a bad year, but there's still you still have a starting, like you got your quarterback, right, for a full off season now. Okay. Judy should still be around. Sutton's around.
They got
now improve your O-line. Yeah, that defense looks great. So
yeah.
like if there's smaller improvements, smaller journey to success with the Broncos than starting with the Colts team and risk getting fired in 2-3 years. At least if you're a Harbaugh, you at least bite yourself a year or two, or for sure.
But I think at Indy, he buys himself a little bit of time. Remember, he built that thing up in San Francisco. They weren't just like the pieces weren't there, and they built that thing up right there. So and then he took that team to the Super Bowl, and then it just fell apart real quickly right after that. So,
yeah. No, that's fair. Like I don't know. I feel like I guess it depends in the end what his would want to be. Do you want a fresh start? You want to get your guys and have a little control, or do you want to still have control and have some established veteranism in there? So
yeah,
lot to tell, a lot of time to go. Obviously, as we're not even started the playoffs yet. So, but yeah, just kind of interested on this Black Monday. All right, are we ready for this?
Yeah.
We haven't talked to him in like 2 weeks, so I don't know what
I talked to him on Thursday. Actually, you just weren't.
Oh, you did. That's right. I was part of. I listened to that a little bit. So, all right, let's bring him in, guys. Jonathan Grishman, what's up, dude?
How's it going, fellas?
Good. How are you?
Oh man, just another day at work.
Jonathan, what's the mood going to be tomorrow down in Texas as TCU is just? Getting a Texas mud hole stomped in them right now, 52-7. As I feel like the state of Texas was a horn frog, horny all up, and Georgia didn't take their Viagra or something because they just spit that horniness right back at them.
Yeah, I honestly I feel like a lot of it was out here was that they were just happy to be in the national title game again. They were unranked at the start of the season, and we got the opportunity to be in the playoff, and again they were able to steal the game away from Michigan. They outplayed Michigan, but it's the SEC world, and everybody else is living it, and this is just proof of it once again that the SEC is the kings of football.
Except for Missouri.
Except for Missouri.
Vanderbilt, right? Vandy too. Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy. They'll have a good year every 10 years, but yeah, Vanderbilt as well. They're just there just for the extra money.
Baseball. Hey, you're sporting baseball. That's
right.
That's where they roam.
Don't worry about.
Oh yeah, that's a great baseball program that Vandy's built over there. So you got to you'll keep them. We'll keep them in the SEC just for that program.
That they said they looked around and said, "Well, we can't win at football. We can't win at basketball. What can we build around here? You know what? We can build a hell of a damn baseball team. Let's do that." So
you got to establish yourself in one sport.
Oh yeah, you're talking about, and that's a powerhouse baseball program. And they had a down year this year in college baseball, but that's a power program that a lot of MLB guys come from.
Yep, 100%.
So, just kind of, I want to touch base with your thoughts and feelings too. We got the NFL playoffs, of course, right around the corner. We talked to Jim earlier about the Giants and the feeling there. He was a little disappointed about them, playing the bench players and stopping the momentum. But I guess what's your thoughts here on this playoff side? Any teams? I know as the Saints fan, obviously you can almost care less. I wouldn't blame you, but any teams you see coming alive here, continuing their streak as they get in, or any upsets? What do you see, Jonathan?
I got a feeling Jaguars are going to do some surprising and make a little bit of a run. I don't think they'll make a deep run into it. I think they'll beat the Chargers. I think that'll be an upset just because of the roster that the Chargers have, as talented of a roster as they have in the NFL. Jaguars are a hot team. They continue to show that they're one of the hottest teams in football right now. So I'd give the Jaguars an opportunity to watch them play a little bit in the postseason, and maybe they make some noise. I don't think they'll beat the Chargers, but I don't think they're going to be able to do anything against the Bengals, Bills, or Chiefs. But I mean, that's a good young team with a good coach. They finally have a coach that they can work with, and the players can work with. So that's an intriguing team, not only for this year but for next year. Because as I did the show with Nick last week, I said Doug Peterson, he may not be a coach of the year this year, but he's a heavy favorite in my eyes to be a coach of the year in 2023, just for the job that he's done turning that program around. And now it's about building a culture of success in Jacksonville, and that's something that Doug Peterson has had a history of being able to do. And you talk about a coach, I'll say this: talk about a coach who has not necessarily lucked out, but he had the number 2 pick quarterback in Carson Wentz, at the time Carson Wentz was good in Philadelphia, and now he has the number 1 pick quarterback in Trevor Lawrence to work with. So I mean that's rolling the dice and getting luck in your favor as a coach to have something like that.
That's fair.
If I want to talk about the NFC, I'm intrigued about the Vikings-Giants game. I'm intrigued by that because I know that they played a very close game earlier this year when they competed. I think the Vikings, won in the last second or something like that, if I remember correctly. So that's an intriguing matchup, an intriguing game to kind of keep an eye on, because the Vikings have had a roller coaster of a year where they played good, but they still squeak out a 1-possession win, or they get blown the doors off of them by Dallas or by Green Bay recently as well. So I'm intrigued to see how that matchup's going to be again in the playoffs. If the Vikings can show that they are one of the top teams in the NFC, or the Giants can make it a game. If the Giants make it a game, I wouldn't put it past the Giants to upset the Vikings in that aspect.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see that. And I'm with you on the Jags possibly upsetting it. It would be, to me, an upset if the Jags beat the Chargers, but being at Jacksonville could happen. I said that in the future, even if the Jaguars lose on Saturday or Sunday, that team right now, you would pick that team right now to win the division again next year, because everybody else is going to be rebuilding. And while they're rebuilding, they at least have a franchise quarterback. They have
Calvin Ridley coming
they
back.
Added Calvin Ridley to the team already. They're going to add some nice pieces in the draft, I'm sure. So that's a team that's building. Where you look at the Colts, we just talked about it. No coach, no quarterback. The Titans are going to have. They're probably going to blow this whole thing up. They fired about 5 coaches today, and who knows what happens with Tannehill? He could be gone. The Texans, obviously, no coach, no GM, no quarterback. So
no
you look at Jacksonville, you're like, that's the team. I mean, at least they got the guy. Hopefully for the next 10 plus years. And Trevor Lawrence, he has looked at times really good, but there was times I thought on Saturday night game that he missed some just easy throws that I've seen him make a bunch at Clemson.
Yeah, but we've seen that with very talented top pick quarterbacks. Andrew Luck struggled a lot in making those kind of throws that it took time developing.
It does.
And then the light switch goes off and he figures it out. And Trevor Lawrence is in the process of figuring it out. We saw that this year. It just takes a coach that you have the opportunity to work with. And Doug Peterson is a great quarterback coach. He's a great offensive mind to be able to work to have paired with that. We all thought, and maybe not everybody thought Urban Meyer was going to be the absolutely, awful, the worst NFL coach in history. But when they made the move, you're like, okay, this is intriguing to see that Urban Meyer, who had a lot of success as an offensive coach in college, who's taking one of the top college quarterbacks over the last 10 years, and Trevor Lawrence, and seeing how that paired off. It didn't work, but you have one who's an NFL coach who's just as good, and you're seeing what it is from there. So the development time, it takes some time for them to figure it out, and he's starting to figure it out. And so it's scary to think that as good as Trevor Lawrence was this year, he's going to get better. And that puts him in my eyes, that potential wise, he's going to be a top 10, top 8 quarterback if the trajectory continues in the way that it's going with Doug Peterson. And that's kind of scary to think, especially in the AFC. They have those quarterbacks, all the young quarterbacks they have with Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert. Now you throw in Trevor Lawrence, who's figuring it out more. That's scary how the AFC can be the next decade with these guys that are behind center.
Yeah, I know you're 1,000% right. We're getting into that new age of quarterback. We're seeing a lot of these old guys retired, and now we're getting into the new age where some of these younger guys are going to be carrying us for the next 10 years or so, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen good eras of quarterbacks, like really good eras in the '90s. You had Elway, Favre, Marino, Young, but I don't think we've ever seen an era where we have 8 or 9 really good quarterbacks, almost 10, probably you could probably say 10, 12, 10, 11 quarterbacks that are.
I mean, the book has still got to be written on some of these guys, but we just went through an era where we had Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, Manning, that Rivers, Roethlisberger, like that's 5-6 guys right there that era is now ending, and these guys are now picking that up.
But I almost want to say you could probably pick 12 quarterbacks in this era that are above average to elite, that are on that borderline cusp, and the depth of the talented quarterbacks we have in this generation, it's putting the NFL in a position where they can be they're popping champagne every weekend because they have box office quarterbacks that they can roll a dice and say, which quarterback do we want on prime time? And they'll get money out of those quarterbacks and out of those teams because of who they are. You talk about like I said, the next 2 years. The next 2 years, you look at what the status of what a Burrow and Allen and Mahomes, even more so, Trevor Lawrence. I know Dak Prescott, if he's been with the Dallas Cowboys, that's just alone is putting his star on a higher level. Even Kyler Murray, if he can figure his stuff out, you can talk about a great era of quarterbacks that we're in that probably will be untouched as far as the depth of those really good quarterbacks that we have.
Yeah, you look at the AFC side just this weekend, the matchups, right? Like Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Herbert. We should have got Josh Allen versus Tua, but now we're not. But we're getting, possibly Lamar versus Joe Burrow, and then if the Bengals win, then you're getting Burrow versus Allen. If the Bills win, and then it would be Herbert or Lawrence versus Mahomes, and like that. Those matchups in the AFC are absolutely insane.
Did anybody think about that? I know that's a potential matchup, Bengals-Bills. Would that be eerie to watch after what happened on Monday? Was that going to be kind of eerie to really watch and see that? And if that is that game, is the home field going to be decided by a coin flip in that one too?
No, it's the Bills.
That'd be Bills.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was saying
the coin flip was if the Bengals had lost to the Ravens,
right,
they were going to coin flip to see who would get home field for this week, but it didn't matter because the Bengals blew them out.
Right.
And then the only way we're getting a neutral site is if it's Chiefs and Bills in the AFC Championship game.
But still, though, Bills and Bengals in the playoffs, I just feel like that's so eerie after what happened.
We'll be able to see what would have happened, right? I mean, except for this time it's in Buffalo instead of Cincinnati.
Yeah, man, that would be – you probably talk about one of the most watched playoff game.
Yeah, that'd be up there.
That will probably be just because of what happened last week, and you throw in the fact of the support of both teams after what happened as well. I think that would be probably one of the most watched playoff games in NFL history.
I wonder too with that because
he's out of the hospital and back in Buffalo.
Yeah, he's back.
He's going to lead that team out on the field, I believe. And by God, that place is just going to erupt.
It's going to go insane.
Dildos are going to be going everywhere, and I mean the Dolphins are going to get just absolute steamrolled.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah, Bills are going to be looking 2 years in a row of being part of an epic playoff game. Last year was the Chiefs going in overtime with those guys. This year could be the Bengals Bills before the AOC title game. So it's potential setup at the moment of a epic matchup for them.
I got to ask you one last question, Jonathan. The Saints did give your boy Jonathan Allen, Dennis Allen, a vote of confidence. They pretty much said you're coming back at least for one more year. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, they made that announcement in the middle of the season that no matter what was going to happen, that Dennis Allen was going to be the coach of 2023. So, I mean, I wasn't shocked by it. They need to change the offensive coordinator, and I hate to say it because Pete Carmichael, who's been a good offensive coordinator, he's not been. This is the first year he's been a play caller, but we kind of saw why that was, why Sean Payton was the play caller, and it's funny because I've been part of so many Facebook groups with Saints fans, and I've had so many conversations with Saints fans, and for the last 5 years, shockingly, when we win division titles in that time frame, people talk about Sean Payton's play calling during those seasons as if it was stale, it was kind of run down, it's old. Those people are not saying that about Sean Payton anymore because they see what it looks like without Sean, and it's worse without Sean
Absence makes
Payton.
the heart grow fonder, Jonathan.
It truly does, and I laughed at those people who you have a Hall of Fame coach and you're complaining about, and you're winning 13 games in a season, and you're complaining about play calling when you're winning a game by 14 points. I mean, it was so remarkable to really see, and then you see what it looks like without Sean, and same thing even without a lot of people complain about Drew Brees in the last 2 or 3 years of his career in the Saints, and now we see what it looks like without him, and we're like, oh my God, can we have a 45-year-old Drew Brees back? I mean, maybe it might work, and just something that would be better. It's scratching my head to figure out, and the culture of what was built, that was supposed to be the selling point, is the culture was already there. Dennis Allen should not have screwed it up. It was there. It was put together for him. The winning culture of New Orleans was there for him on a silver platter. You had the roster. You should not have screwed it up, and he found a way to screw it up. I think we won the same amount of games as we were 8-9 or something like that last year. I can't remember. We were under 500, I think, when Sean's last year. But this year just looked a whole lot worse, and in many facets of what we're trying to be as a Saints organization. That there's no way he should have been able to screw it up as bad as he did, and he found ways to screw it up to where you almost have to sit back and go, how do we blow this up a little bit? Maybe not too much, but how do you overcome this? How do you blow it up to change it and keep things in the right direction? I don't know if you can. And I said
Kamara, get rid of some bad contracts. They got to rework. They're reworking Mike Thomas's deal, which they have to because
that was already done.
They gave him a shit ton of money, and he's played about 3 more games than the 3 of us have.
Yeah, I mean they've already restructured his deal to where if it was like before the league year, if they cut him as a June 1st designation, then they'll save the Saints will save $14 million, and I think it's a reduced dead cap hit is going to hit them. So smart on the Saints' part to be able to do that and figure a way to make it work. And you're just going to have to cut bait and get rid of him and move on and say, hey, I appreciate your time, but you haven't been available. And so you have to find ways to get younger. You have to find ways to get better in the process. But they've kicked the can down the road so much that we've all sat back and said, what a genius Mickey Loomis is for doing this. What a genius for the moves that he's been able to make. But now we're sitting back and go, those moves were supposed to be a playoff team moves. In the last 2 years, we're not a playoff team. So how much of a genius were those moves now? And instead of it's putting us in a position where we're cap strapped for at least another 2 years and no draft picks in the first round this year, so you can't really build for the future. You're handcuffing yourself and giving the key to the guard and say, hey, I'm locked up. Let me just sit here for another 3-4 years and hopefully we can figure it out from then.
No, that's fair. There's a lot of things that I think could happen mid-season for the Saints team. Lots of changes could be coming.
Yeah. Well, the first one has to be in this offseason. That's changing the offensive coordinator. But that's in a way, I want my team to win. I want the Saints to win. But if they don't, then they have to swallow it and say we were wrong. This needs to be a change. We have to fix the culture of New Orleans. They have to change the philosophy as well.
What do you think they get for Sean Payton?
John Gruden, I remember and I've had conversations with John Gruden. Got 4 draft picks, 2 firsts and 2 seconds. That's my starting point. and I'm not even. And my negotiation ends a minimum 2 firsts and a second. If there's just because he can stay in TV. So I mean, like, if we have to really negotiate, okay, give me 2 firsts and a second round pick, and we'll go from there. But I'm starting the conversation with 2 firsts and 2 seconds because John Gruden got that, and Sean Payton is a much better coach than John Gruden was in Oakland, going to Tampa, and he's a much better coach today than what we saw what Gruden was finishing out his career in Oakland.
Yeah, allegedly that's what they're trying to ask for is like at least a couple first. Them and Denver have already kind of agreed on the compensation. Now they would have to, what that would look like if they interview Sean Payton or if that's what's going to happen. But
did they agree?
I'm Sean. I don't want no part of Denver. And I don't know what Denver gave up. What later, when are those draft picks going to be? Because their next 3 draft picks go to Seattle. So what is it, 5 years down the road?
Yeah,
New Orleans is going to get them picks.
They got the Dolphins' first round pick this year for the Bradley Chubb trade.
For the Chubb trade, yeah.
Did they agree to compensate? I saw that they talked about compensation, but
they said that what I heard was that they both agreed on the compensation. Now that compensation was not released.
Right.
As far as what they agreed upon, but it was that they both came together, said, "Hey, we want this." They said, "Hey, that's fine. That's great. We'll do that." And then they went on about their business.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm calling Arizona after they just fired Cliff. When they got that 3rd pick, I'll take the 3rd pick or 3rd or 4th pick, whatever they have right now, and say, hey, well, there's our chance to get a new quarterback for the future. But I'm calling Arizona. I'm calling Houston and say, hey, do y'all want Sean Payton?
I don't think Houston does it. Houston's not going to give up the number 2 overall pick for Sean Payton.
That'd be who I call. They could tell me no. I'm calling.
I would even pick up the phone if I'm Houston. You're calling for the number 2 pick.
So wait, the Rams don't have a first round this year?
Yeah,
no, the Lions do. That was part of the golf trade.
Oh, we're still dealing with that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking to the Rams. If I'm saying I'm not talking to Rams because they don't have a first round pick for the next 3 more years or something like that. Because they've traded their picks to Jacksonville for Jalen Ramsey. They traded for Jared Goff. Traded Jared Goff with Matt Stafford. I'm not having a conversation with the Rams because there's no future for me in being able to do that.
The team that there's 2 teams and they're playing this weekend. And me and Tanner talked about it earlier. One is the Chargers. I think it makes some perfect sense. And then the Cowboys, because he has ties there. Jerry loves him. So I think you could see those two happen.
I agree. I've said the Chargers have probably been the top team that Sean wants to go to. He lives in LA, being on Fox right now. So it's not really like he has to move across country. And that's the roster, the coach, the quarterback, the roster they have. It's all ready. It just needs a coach that knows how to utilize that group. And I said the Chargers are probably the top team. Dallas, it depends on if they make a run. If they beat Tampa Bay, if they beat the Eagles, I think they have to play the Eagles. They probably have to play the Eagles, possibly the Eagles, or whoever they play in the second round. If they beat them. Then I think McCarthy is safe. McCarthy may have to make it to the NFC Championship game to keep his job safe.
Which is what Nick and I talked about. Yeah, he had to go to that game.
I could see them holding on to him if they make it to the division round for 1 more year and say, hey, we have everything in place for you. You have 1 more year to prove it. And Sean, and it might be what Sean is, because Sean had a conversation saying that he may take 1 more year and stay in TV. So that might be, if that's the case, that might be the job that he's just waiting for. If McCarthy stays 1 more year, that might be the job that he's waiting for. I seriously, I would consider Arizona. If I'm Sean Payton, I would consider Arizona. You have a good roster. You just had a terrible coach that just didn't know how to utilize Kyler Murray. You didn't know how to utilize your weapons that you have. You have a lot of weapons on that roster that you can do something with Sean has. The defense is not a bad defense. Again, it's just coaching was just what shot them in the foot so much, and the instability that Cliff Kingsbury was kind of running that team into the ground. So you put a coach in there. It's kind of, put a coach that knows how to run a organization and lead a team. Who knows what that group could do? So I would be intrigued. If I'm Arizona, I would at least make a phone call and say, hey, what would it take for Sean? And you're not, if you're the third or fourth pick, you're not taking a quarterback, because you do have Kyler Murray locked up for a long-term deal. So I mean, it depends on what you're looking for in that aspect on that roster. But if you're basically a coach away, and Sean Payton could be the guy that helps lead Kyler Murray, I mean, I'd make a phone call if I was Arizona.
I think they stay patient and wait for the Chargers to fire Staley. So
yeah.
But I got one more. I got one baseball question for you before we get out of here and let you go. Carlos Correa, still waiting to hear if he actually gets past the physical. What is this? Like we announced a deal, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later,
not
yeah,
one
two
deal,
deals because San Francisco and now the Mets. Is Carlos Correa going to get past this? Do you know anything?
Well, agreeing to a deal doesn't mean anything until the physical's done. You have to do the physical after the agreement. I mean, I've had agreements, with teams before, and then I go do a physical, and I failed my physical, and they go, hey, that's it, we're moving on. I mean, that's standard. I mean, it's to the point though. If a player has a injury, a lingering injury that could come back and be an issue down the road, especially if you're signing a player for a 12 or 13-year deal. I mean, do you really they know their investment at that point, the last 5 years, is going to be terrible, but you don't want that to be the last 7 years or the last 8 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
You don't want that to be basically a 4-year deal that you get good player out of, and then the last 6, 7, 8 years you're getting crap out of. So it's one of those things where it could be a serious issue. It may never have been over the time because he was younger, but knowing that in his 30s, in his 32, 34, 36, 37, 38-year-old body now with that plate in his leg, that's not going to last long. Something's going to happen to where the speed goes a lot quicker, the power goes a lot quicker, the reaction time doesn't happen because of that plate. The skill set diminishes with that injury that he sustained in the minor leagues. It never happened because he was in his 20s. He was fit. He was young. Now we're talking about an older ball player at that point, on the 6th year and 7th year of the deal, 8th year, 9th year, all the way through the finish of that contract. And at that point, who knows if he's even playing at that point because of the injury. So it sucks, and I know the players union is probably appalled by this because they have to do their job to make sure that they're taking care of the players, and I understand that, but it's smart on the teams, it's smart on the Giants, and I know the Giants got laughed at. And now the Mets are doing the same thing. And so the Giants are like, okay, well, hey, maybe that was a smart move. And if I'm Correa, I know what I'm worth. He's probably fighting tooth and nail to get that 12th and 13th year. I don't see another team. If the Mets truly do walk away, I don't see another team giving him what he wants. I don't see another team giving him a 12
to the Twins.
Well, that's Trevor Rosenthal just tweeted out. Correa Twins talks are escalating. Twins' chances of landing Carlos Correa are increasing with Mets talks in limbo.
Wow. I mean, it was they've said. I mean, the Mets said that they're considering walking away. I mean, if you're not budging, and Correa's probably not budging from that. If you made an agreement, and you're Correa, and you're sitting there saying, hey, I get what you're afraid of, but we had a deal. I'm not walking away from that deal. And the Mets are saying, we're not doing this anymore because of what we saw in our physical. Yeah, you're going to have a stalemate. You're going to have a stalemate.
My question is this. Like, what did the Mets think, though? Like, the Giants, they already knew the Giants failed them because of the physical. So you just think that your doctor's going to be like, hey, their doctor's just tougher than our doctor? Or like, what the hell were they thinking? Like, that's my question is, he failed their physical. So you're just like, guess what? He'll pass our physical. Let's sign him over here. Oh, hey, guess what, Cohen? He failed our physical too. What do you mean he failed our physical? But he failed their physical too. Like, what the hell were they thinking?
Because you have that. You'll have teams, you'll have some doctors will say, hey, I don't know what they saw, but we don't have the same opinion. Everybody has their own opinion on physicals.
I guess they got the same damn opinion. They're just going to keep going to all 32 teams. They're going to go to all 32 teams and find the one doctor that has a different opinion.
I mean, maybe that's the case, but that's what the thing about it is. We've seen that before. I can't have an example off the top of my head, but we've seen a player fail a physical at one point, sign with maybe a slightly different deal, a little bit less, but it was still the highest dollar deal, and say, hey, we disagree with this. I'll give you one right now. You go back to football, Drew Brees. When he hurt his shoulder,
the Saints,
Dolphins said, "We're not passing this. We're not passing his shoulder. Absolutely not. We're not going to do it." Saints doctor said, "Yeah, he's going to be fine." I mean, even though they saw the injury, they knew the issue of what was going to be the long-term effects. It's an opinion on what can be the projection of the long-term effects of the injury. Unfortunately for Carlos Correa, both teams have said the same thing as far as what the effects of this injury is going to be long term. And no team, I don't fault the teams. I don't fault the teams for saying we're not investing 12 or 13 years in a leg that may only last 4. Like, that doesn't make any sense for us. And then we're paying for a player who's going to be past his prime and barely can move and be a DH that not even really that good of a DH at that point. It makes no sense. So the negotiations are you gotta come down off your offer. Correa's camp saying no, we agreed. I'm sure that's what they're probably saying. And if they're going to the Twins, they're going to probably take a higher annual average with less years on the deal and just say we'll just make money that way for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, which actually was the original offer from Minnesota, was a higher annual offer with less years. So they're going to kind of go, I guess, back that route and see what happends. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense for them right now until again, I just don't see him ever getting the deal he wants, that 12 or 13-year deal. If he has to sign a 2-year deal with Minnesota again, that is a 1-year option, and he goes back into free agency this year, or back into free agency for next year, so he's another year older, he still thinks he's going to get a 12 or 13-year deal at that point. He's going to have to come down a little bit, and like I said, that's what's going to piss off the players' union, is the fact that he had 2 deals in place for 12 years, 13 years that was going to reset the market for shortstops. It was already being reset this year in the first place.
Correct, which is what he was waiting on for that 1-year deal last year.
Absolutely. And now now 2 teams have completely said no and trying to change the offer or walked away. That's going to piss off the union to figure out there's another issue. And then you may throw the collusion word after this year if these teams turn around and say, oh, we're going to offer him a lot lower, smaller deal. They're going to say, oh, this is an issue that may be down the road in a conversation that needs to be had under collective bargaining negotiations, just because there's something they can say something was fishy as far as how this happened, but again, it was smart from these teams, and I hate to applaud the Mets for making a smart deal. I was actually kind of hoping that they made this deal, and hey, you got a good shortstop that's playing third base. Who knows how that's going to be? But at the same time, you're paying him $300+ million, and you don't know what his future is going to be after year 3 or 4 with that leg.
Right. All right, Jonathan, we'll let you out of here, man. We appreciate you hopping on, talking with us a little bit. So we're only a few short weeks away before spring training begins.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. I know I was a little bit late with you guys.
You're good, man.
There was a little bit of conversation that needed to be had with the girls tonight, so they got a little bit of a butt chewing out as far as with it. But
get them, coach.
Oh yeah,
it's always needed sometimes. So,
but always appreciate the time with you guys.
Yep, awesome, Jonathan. Thank you again.
Hey, see you, Jonathan. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
See you, man. Real quick here, we got a comment here from Cook House. He says Brock Bowser #1 dynasty drafts in 2024. If that's actually not bad for dynasty fantasy football there to think about, which I'm going to try to get into this year. So, Nick, go ahead and wrap it up here. What you got, man? What you got coming out this week? Anything cool?
Yeah. Quick update on the score: 65-7. Georgia broke the record for most points scored. Bennett 6 tutters. So Thursday night, I'm going to have the Botkin show. It's going to be me, Johnny, and Craig. Talk a little of this playoff action. We'll talk about some of the firings. and who we think's going where, that type of thing. Then Sunday we're gonna have the morning show, the sports show with you guys, and I think Sunday night I'm gonna do a back to the old interview style show on Sunday night. Yep, the old interview style. As the show originally started, is now that Sundays was taking place of the reaction show. Now that football season is down to about 4 games or so, it's time to get back to the interview style. So not too sure who we're going to have yet. Producer Dan Harris is going to book the guests for me, so one less thing I got to worry about. But that'll be happening Sunday night. So I'm excited for that. And that's what's happening on the Bodkins channel. You can catch it right here on the Bodkins Show. Let's Talk Sports. All that good stuff is what'll be happening this week.
Solid. Yeah, we got our Wednesday. We got our Buffoon Show, of course, Wednesday night. Wow, Jason and Mike. I think Thursday, this, as long as everything goes right for me on the technology side, if I get my stuff in tomorrow, we're planning on, I'm going to try to do a discussion with the Man Cave guys over there on the Whiskey Sports Podcast channel on Let's Talk Sports. Saturday morning, I believe JG, his brother, his nephew, and myself are going to try to do an NBA update show here on Let's Talk Sports and Sports Buffoon. And then, of course, we'll be doing our pregame show on Saturday and get ready for the playoffs on Sunday morning as well. So, and then we'll be back here Monday night, guys. So, just because NFL's slowly going down doesn't mean this content train isn't stopping. So we got tons to talk about. Excited for some college basketball talk, hopefully soon. As K-State, even though I'm not a K-State fan, they went from unranked to number 11. So after a few big wins this last week. So I'm excited to see in-state rival doing well. So, all right, guys, please like, subscribe, follow. You can see the channels here in your corners. Make sure you go like each and every one of them there. And everybody have a fabulous week. Tune on the bell, and you'll catch us later. See you guys.
See ya.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Buffoons and Bodkins Show. Make sure you hit that bell, subscribe, and follow for more content. Swing over to the Bodkins Show, subscribe and follow for him. And then also swing over to Let's Talk Sports Network and go subscribe to him because it's phenomenal for what he does. And there's a lot more to come on that channel.